So, the Calcarea Carb is a great remedy for the defective dentitional period. Already I told you, they look fatty and chubby, but we are very slow in teething. इसलिए दांत निकालने के टाइम बहुत प्रॉब्लम आ जाते हैं. The children are always in case of the Calcarea Carb, as scrofulous and are constant subject to short diarrhea. इसलिए जो बच्चे लोगों को डायरिया ये होते शोर होते उसके लिए ascorvus, scrofulous and are constant subject to short diarrhea, tardy development of the bony tissue, retarded bony tissue development, and so on. Lymphatic enlargement is also there, and open frontalish. There is the curvature of the bones, profuse perspiration over the head, curvature of the bones, and profuse perspiration over the head. Okay. Tendency to obesity with pot-belliedness and the guiding symptom. Pot-belliedness and the guiding symptoms. So, belladonna, though always useful in these conditions, does not go deep down to shed the constitution, right? So, what is happening? Though always useful in this condition, does not go deep down to set the constitutions right, and undoubtedly it helps the temporary derangement. Undoubtedly it helps the temporary derangement, but the real spade work of setting the constitution right, the temporary derangement and spade of setting the constitution right, is to be left to Calcarea Carb, a great constitutional remedy all the times. Calcarea Carb, being the chronic of the belladonna, the presumption is that we are likely to meet with a certain amount of congestion in the head, same as in well. The amount of congestion is the amount of the head, and same as in well. There is a perspiration, but the face of the belladonna is the red, not in the Calcarea Carb. There the profit and compassion complaints of concoction, stitching pain, pulsating pain, and throbbing pain in head, beginning in occiput and spreading to the top of the head. इसलिए salicia भी ऐसे starting from the back head and going to the front and so on. Great burning is felt in the vortex. This is another important symptoms. Sulfur, phosphorus, etc. is there. There are the confusions, absence and dullness of the whole head, confusion of sensation, dullness of the whole head, and marked indications. Still more characteristic indications, however, is the feeling of icy coldness. इसलिए हमारा बेलोडोना में का वीडियो देखिएगा, कल में देखेंगे hot, cold sensation. Okay, and head parts and piece of the eyes is lying against it, and this in spite of the condition mentions beforehand. The strongest symptom, the strangest symptoms of all is that in spite of this coldness, we have copious exhausting sweats over the head. So profuse is this sweat that it rolls down the face, and large hairs like the drops. इतना ज़्यादा होते हैं जे drop eyes हो जाते हैं. Being a scrofulous remedy, there is no death of scrofulous elements in the eyes and ears and nose in Calcarea Carb. So as a scrofulous remedy, there is is used in keratitis with great photophobia and morning agglutination of the lips. There is stinging pain in eyes, worse from candlelight. There is stinging in the pain in the eyes, worse from candlelights. The pupils are usually dilated. It is also used in scrofulous and arthritic ophthalmia. The lids are red, swollen, painful, and itching. The conjunctiva is inflamed as well. There are numerous vesicles with pus on cornea. Okay, so pupils are usually dilated. It is also used in scrofulous and arthritic ophthalmia. The lids are red, swollen, painful, and itching. The conjunctiva is inflamed as well. There are numerous vesicles it pass on the cornea. Of course, we must not forget the light hair. We must not blue eyes, the distended abdomen, and the enlargement of the glands on the neck and elsewhere. It is a well-known remedy in cataract as well as chronic dilatation of the pupil. Cataract with chronic dilation of the pupils, lacrimal fistula, induration after stage also comes under its influences. इसलिए सब आइज का प्रॉब्लम है. Even this is a good medicine for the cases of there is a thyroid gland, hyperthyroidism, and so on. Even if I am the ear it produces thickness of the tympanum, which are all the symptoms of defective hearing. As a result of all symptoms of defective hearings are there ringing and buzzing sensation, hissing and thundering noise in ears, lead to many perversions of the hearing. इसलिए क्या देखेंगे? Thundering noise in ears lead to many perversions of hearings. We also have mucopurulent arterial discharge, due to ulceration with accompanying inflammation of the parotid gland. Ulceration with accompanying inflammation of the parotid glands are there. On the nose, it is influences. Its influence is no less marked. It is a great remedy for a chronic nasal catarrh, which is at all times a barometer indicating scrofulous diathesis. The wings of the nose are thickened, and there is an offensive discharge which is both purulent and bloody. It works admirably in polypus of nose as well as of the ears, a great trait which we must not lose sight of in Calcarea Carb. A constant tendency to diarrhea. It is of frequent occurrence in spite of all precautions at all odd times. It comes on to the great annoyance of the patient. The pit of stomach becomes swollen and looks like an inverted saucer. The stools are of varying character, although mostly find them be whitish, short, fetid and undigested. Sometimes to start with, they are hard and then becomes fusty and finally absolutely liquid. It is extremely useful in diarrhea of psoriatic children, especially during dentition. The stools are involuntary and foamy. A great characteristic is intolerance of milk as soon as it is taken. It is either vomited out in sour curds or rejected through the rectum in white curdle lumps. So this vomiting has some importance. If it gets reverse revenous on these indications, it may be used in shamar complaints of children or in genuine cholera infantum. Prolapsus ani is a frequent occurrence. The abdomen is sensitive to pressure due to heavy accumulation of flat ash. Colic pains about umbilicus, certain amount of nausea, great gurgling in right side of abdomen, swelling and hardness of the mesenteric gland, clay-colored evacuations, ascites, general emaciations, enlargement of the liver, and finally pressure and pain in hepatic region, aggravated by every movement and symptoms to lead us astray. In constipation, the stools need mechanical assistance. As in aloes, sanicula, selenium, spigelia, sepia, and cilicia. The constipation greatly complicated with the hemorrhoids affection. Most mucous hemorrhoids that we find in Calcarea Carb. Mucous hemorrhoids mostly found in the Calcarea Carb. Calcarea Carb with such extensive influences on the human economy affects the sexual aspect or evolution of the sexual life of man and woman. On the male, it increases the sexual desire and provokes the emissions. On the it also makes up for the evil consequence of onanism and to frequent indulgence. It removes lassitude and weakness and stops frequent involuntary nocturnal emissions. The condition for which it is particularly useful is where the sexual life, though on the wane, is not utterly dead. Lascivious fancies excites desire, where the organs have become too frail for an erection. An emission takes place too soon, with consequent weakness of limbs and excitement on the nerves. It also rectifies intubation of testicles, inflammation of the prepuce, vertical growth on sexual organs, and smelling of the lightning, and some smelling of the like the wool cheese and herring bean show induration of the testicles, inflammation of the prepuce, vertical growth on sexual organs, smelling so and so. On the female organ, sexual system, a similar condition is observed, and there is undue excitement leading on the nymphomania. Undue excitement onto the nymphomania. It is particularly useful in flabby, plethoric girls who grow too rapidly and in whom menstruation starts too early, flows very profusely, and lasts too long. The flow is provoked by overexertions and emotions. Therefore, these patients are practically never without a show of their periods. A little physical exercise of the least excitement, as that caused by an emotions, users in a rectum return of the profuse catamenia. They feel none too well before menstruation, headache, aching of back and hips, pain and swelling of breasts, leukorrhea, mental excitability, and amorous dreams are particularly troublesome to this period. Even when menstruation stops, they linger on. Sometimes the flow is so excessive to amount of the regular hemorrhage. These hemorrhages are very often due to the abnormal growth of the uterus or in fibroid and tumor of the polyps. Calcarea patients are particularly troubled with the leukorrhea, especially between the menses. The discharge may be thick, yellowish, but is specially indicated in leukorrhea occurring before puberty and in infants. In this connection, I might as well mention that it is a great remedy in chlorosis in younger girls. They look apparently healthy, but it is really a plethora more than health. They too look robust, as it beaming with health, but on examination it is found that they are sadly lacking in red blood corpuscles, suppression of menses in women of such leukophlegmatic temperament generally leads to long complications, which may be easily avoided by the timely administration of the deep-acting Calcarea Carb. Calcarea Carb profoundly influences the urinary organs. It is applicable in diabetes, albuminuria, polyp, and varicose of the bladder, and hence we come across all kinds of the urine in Calcarea Carb. It may be clear, milky white, or full in blood, but the one outstanding feature of the strong odor. Once smelt, it is always remembered. The desire for urinations is quite frequent. The patient has to run and pass a few drops of urine several times within the course of an hour. Trickling of urine after micturations, involuntary passage of urine on every motions, nocturnal enuresis may also be present. That is a very important characteristic of these drugs. Calcarea Carb exercise a very useful functions. In putting right many of the deviations occurring during the pregnancy. In the first place, it helps conceptions, and many instances when all the organs of the conceptions are found to be tolerable in good conditions, and still where conception does not take place due to some constitutional dyscrasia, Calcarea Carb cause conceptions like the pressure reality. Then again, when menses continue, still after pregnancy, it checks the flow and prevents the miscarriage. So like Nux vomica, it also checks the vomiting and toothache during the pregnancy. So, checks vomiting and toothache during pregnancy, cramps in the toes and soles of the feet, a frequent occurrence during the pregnancy, gives in readily under the influence of Calcarea Carb. We use it also in false labor pains when they run upward unless stopped. These pains provoke particularly deleterious and serve only to reduce the strength of the mother. Under the influence of Calcarea Carb, we see those obnoxious symptoms disappear and childbirth becomes a matter of ease and safety. Then again Calcarea comes in as a great help in phlegmancia albans dolens. The pregnancy के बाद देखोगे पेट में दाग बाद striations, these are done. It removes the inflammation, reduces the pain and dispels the swelling. It also becomes useful in various disorders relating to the secretion of milk after childbirth. It is also almost like a panacea in all such disorders arising from excessive deficient of secretion of milk. It checks galactorrhea as well as helps to remove scantines of the flow of milk. It goes even further and improves the quality of the mother's milk. Often we find, due to the disagreeable nauseating taste, the child would not take to the breast. It cries itself hoarse and still would not suck. The few doses of Calcarea given to the mother sweetens the milk, and the child devours greedily what he dislikes to utterly only let go. We will now study its action on the respiratory organs. It is useful in all various varieties of complaints, beginning from ordinary bronchial catarrh on pneumonia and phthisis. It is particularly useful in chronic bronchitis when complicated with emphysema. The sputum is yellow, humpy and sweetish, and when thrown in water, the resemblance brings a light that starts it as the heavier portion while sitting at the bottom, draws behind it a long trail of mucus. It is a very useful remedy in phthisis in all stages. We use it in the prodromal stage and the patient generally of leukophlegmatic constitutions. It emaciates rapidly and complains of such symptoms as our eructations, diarrhea with prolapsus recti, palpitation and normal emissions, irregular or profuse masturbation, spasmodic cough, clammy extremities, chilliness and sweating of palms of hands and soles of feet. It may be used in the advanced stage as well as when large cavities have formed, especially in the middle third of the right lung, and all the symptoms described above have become more pronounced. Before closing, it would like to emphasize on a piece of caution dropped by Hahnemann, which is that this remedy should not be used before nitricum and sulfur. So Calcarea Carb shouldn't be given before nitric acid and sulfur, as it is likely to bring on unnecessary complications. We will last of all discuss the application of Calcarea Carb in fevers of various disease types. It is indicated in the intermittent fevers of pottery, bricks makers, gardeners, fruit growers, and those of people whose occupation in life makes exposure a matter of everyday necessity. It is not the type of exposure found in aconite, rustics, and bryonia. It rather resembles Calcarea. Whether the patient has to work standing in cold water as a result of such occupation, the patient starts with a sensation of drawing pain in all joints and great heaviness of the head and the limbs. These prodromal feelings are followed by distinct sensation chills, beating in the stomach accompanied with an agonizing sensation of it increasing with the chill is disappearing with it. The limbs feel icy cold and the patient finds it very difficult to get them warm through cover warmly. The stage heat free from thirst. Great orgasm of the blood gives a sensation as if the patient had been drenched with the hot water during the patient's transform. The next stage, which is stage of sweat, is very characteristic. Want of the thirst. The constitutional symptoms, the soric cachexia, should never be lost sight of. In the selection of the Calcarea Carb, it is equally indicated in the typhoid fever as its very onset. The symptom that leads to its indication is a state of utter sleeplessness due to the overactivity of the mind. At first it may look like opium, nuts and brownia, from which remedies it ought to be closely differentiated. The overactivity of the mind is Calcarea takes a peculiar form. He finds no rest because of some disagreeable idea always lingering in his mind and rousing him as often as he falls into a slight slumber. He sees horrid visions before his eyes. In his delirium, he plays with cats and other animals and talks about fire, mice, murder, palpitation. A tremulous pulse, anxiety, exhaustion and weakness are determining symptoms. It is recommended in epilepsy, where immediately before the attack, the aura starts with the sensation of something running in arms or from pit of the stomach, down through the abdomen into the feet. Vexation, fright, uneasiness, and suppression of colonic eruptions are principally important of idiopathic factors. So, these are the very characteristic symptoms of the drugs. Is it for a case which I am describing? An agent of A5 quarreled with allopathy doctors who advised preparing for the death, breath saving and difficulty. The face becomes wax, pale, face and head but in perspiration. Running in little streams, violent palpitation of the heart, lowering extremities, cold so much so that all summer he had slept with a feather bed over him, while his body has bathed in perspiration, especially the head, vertigo on going upstairs or up a hill, bloating in the region of the stomach, compelling him to open his clothing, appetite poor, with an aversion to meat and craving for boiled eggs. Calcarea Carb was prescribed and 3 times daily cured within the 5 weeks. The allopathic doctors also advised preparing, breathing heavily, difficult. Calcarea Carb means aversion to meat and craving for the boiled egg. Craving for boiled egg is very important symptom of the Calcarea Carb. Okay, aversion to meat and craving for boiled egg is very important. We had a fit 3 months ago, followed in 6 weeks, but 3 months sufficient fit, remaining insensible for hours after them. Day before, it was found that left his mind confused, pale hanged, mouth and half open, eyes staring at the least noise, holds hands cold, clammy and trembling. He continually interrupted his wife, saying, let me tell, and then went to seem forget, say, yes. What seemed to stick to his mouth as if his tongue was too large. The fits of yesterday had convulsions only. A left side began with a cold feeling in the hand which crept up the arm so cheeks. When a glass of ice cold water came from his mouth, which water gave the mouth a nasty taste. A peculiar sensation was repeated 3 or 4 times before the feet. Left side of the face red, right sided hands and feet cold and white after complicated, ringing in the ears as of 100 of bells and the Calcarea Carb was prescribed 200 and it was cured. This experience was told by the doctor in 1 minute. Then, so in case of the Calcarea Carb, the very peculiar symptoms are there. Even in case of the fever, when belladonna is given and gives a partially relief. But if it is repeatedly given Calcarea Carb, belladonna, but does not relieve, then think of the Calcarea Carb. Until and unless we do not prescribe the Calcarea Carb, we cannot expect better result. ठीक है ना? इसलिए Calcarea Carb देने के बाद, ये belladonna देने के बाद Calcarea Carb देना चाहिए. Even complementary medicine also many drugs are there, and this medicine should not be very frequently repeated. Okay, and what has happened? Calcarea Carb देने के बाद सल्फा नहीं देना और नाइट्रिक एसिड नहीं देना. What will happen if you give in the nitric acid and sulfur after the Calcarea Carb? There is huge aggravation will found it. And what will happen? The Calcarea Carb will increase the problem. Once upon a time, I have seen such cases. Once upon a time, I have seen such type of cases when Calcarea Carb has to be given. Then sulfur was given for a case of the dysmenorrhea and menorrhagia. A patient, female of about 35 years, after 2 children. Then it was so severe that the bleeding is too much, unable to control the bleeding. My friends, who is a physician, he also confused. I know what mistakes was there. I told repeatedly, don't prescribe sulfur after the Calcarea Carb, because after Calcarea Carb, if sulfur is given, any mishaps may be happen. But what's happened? My friends was also a employees. Government employee, at the same time he was a good prescriber. He did not listen my words. What happened after this Calcarea Carb? Sulfur was given, and sulfur makes a huge, profound bleeding and exhaustions. The patient was so weak, exhausted, that she has to be admitted to the hospitals, and the blood was given. Saline was given, and gradually she was recovered. But till there, the bleeding was not controlling, off and on. The menstruation cycle was changed. There is a heavy bleeding, even lost, even within 1 month interval, the menses start. Then what to do? I told him, just repeat Calcarea Carb again, and when he has repeat the Calcarea Carb again, 3 doses every day morning, and it was found that all bleeding has stopped, and the food and drinks was given proper. At the same time, we have forbidden not to take anything else, so that there is a chances of problem, there is a chances of these complications, bleeding. And after giving the Calcarea Carb, again all bleeding stops. Even another medicine which was prescribed, that is the China, because of China is useful in case of the vital fluid loss. So whenever China has given, the whole weakness has been stopped. So China and having the excessive bleeding, nuts also having excessive bleeding, Ammonium carbonicum also having excessive bleeding. Calcarea Carb also having excessive bleeding. Even Calcarea Carb constitution is this type of corpulent, fatty, flabby, fleshy, excessive sweating, but China is not that. China is the lean, thin, emaciated, weak, anemic, and there is weakness, prostration is there. There is a gastric symptoms is there. The eructation is there. So we should think about it about the China. Even the ammonium carbonicum, it is a good medicine for the cases of excessive bleeding. In case of excessive bleeding, what the peculiarities there? Ammonium carbonicum, fat, flabby, fleshy, with sweating, they usually uses the nasal because there is any obstruction. So to remove all the obstruction, they have to use this medicine. Okay, but Nux milk also having there. Nux milk has very irritability, great problem, very irritable, great problem is there, and irritability, great problem, menses disturbance, acidity problem, and so on. Now what is happening? We must consider this, what to do, what not to do. Most of the physician does not know what medicine should be prescribed, which medicine should not be prescribed during, before and after. So it is an art. Homeopathy is not just putting the medicine and poke to the mouth. That may also hamper sometimes. The classical prescription is there, where there is this type of problem is there, and we should consider it. We should not neglect it. Okay? And if it is given by this way, repeatedly, and consequently, there is a loss. And nobody can change the situation. Nobody can change the situation. And nobody can cure, nobody can control the situation. So never prescribe sulfur and that is the nitric acid after the calcarea. That is the spoil the case. That may be danger of the patient. Okay, thank you. Bye.